Numerous legends about giants have been recorded throughout history, including those from Norse, Indian, Mayan, Aztec, Incan, and Greek cultures. What if giants are not stories at all, but rather a hitherto unknown chapter in our true history? For over 200 years, there have been over 1,000 reports of skeletons higher than 7 feet being discovered in ancient burial grounds throughout North America and the rest of the world. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video has a compilation of some pieces of evidence of lost archaeology, in this case, giants, with unusual anatomical anomalies including double rows of teeth, jawbones that are so huge they can cover the finder's face, and elongated skulls. These skeletons have been found from coast to coast and documented around the world. Let's get to it then. Number 1. California's Catalina Island is home to a 9-foot 2-inch skeleton. There have been numerous large skeleton discoveries in the Channel Islands off the coast of California. The intriguing and controversial tale centers on amateur archaeologist Ralph Glidden and his strange museum, but the story began in 1913 with the work of a German naturalist. On Catalina, Dr. A.W. Fursten discovered an 8-foot-tall skeleton with artifacts like mortars, pestles, and arrowheads. While in Mexico, he heard a story about a giant, noble race that had once lived on an island and had since disappeared. This race predated the arrival of the white man. Between 1919 and 1930, amateur anthropologist Ralph Glidden discovered and collected 3,781 remains on the Channel Islands. When Jim and Bill Vieira visited Catalina to look into the contents of the box as part of Search for the Lost Giants, they discovered images of hundreds of bones and skulls, excavations, artifacts, and burials. A 28-inch femur discovered by Glidden on San Nicolas Island was also included as a report made by Ernest Windle, the judge of Avalon. The skeleton would be almost 8 feet tall as a result. Number 2. The Giants of Death Valley. A doctor by the name of F. Bruce Russell discovered some tunnels and caves in Death Valley in 1931 and decided to explore them with Daniel S. Bovey. They initially thought the cave system to be tiny, but it ended up covering 180 square miles. A ritual or religious hall covered in bizarre hieroglyphics was one of the first things they found. Stranger yet, 9-foot-tall humanoid skeletons were also discovered. A newspaper in San Diego published the first official account of the incident in 1947. The mummified remains were believed to be 80,000 years old or older. However, the tale suddenly vanished, leaving behind only the ruins of the monster. Number 3. Mounds in Iowa, 1897, 7-foot 6-inch skeleton. In this article from the Worthington Advance, November 18, 1897, the chief of the Bureau of Ethnology at the time, John Wesley Powell, recounted the ethnological work of the Smithsonian Institution's Division of Eastern Mounds. The news reports was accompanied by the picture below. The discovery of a giant's skeleton inside a mound in Iowa by scientists is officially documented. According to measurements, the giant must have stood 7 feet 6 inches tall when he or she was alive. When exposed to air, the bones disintegrated into dust. Number 4. Traces of giants found in the desert. Who knew giant remains would be found beneath the sandy depths? How did it happen? A man whose name was Howard E. Hill from Los Angeles, California, gave a speech before the city's Transportation Club at the beginning of August 1947 and related a fantastic tale. According to the story, Dr. F. Bruce Russell claimed to have found a network of intricate tunnels buried deep beneath Death Valley in 1931. Russell, a retired doctor from Cincinnati, Ohio, and Dr. Daniel S. Bovey, a colleague with whom he had previously worked on archaeological digs in Mexico, are said to have discovered these caverns entirely by chance. Russell, who relocated to the west for his health, decided to investigate the possibility of mining. When Russell and Bovey first began exploring the caverns, they followed one passage and were horrified to discover the mummified bones of 3 enormous men who were between 8 and 9 feet tall. The giants wore clothing consisting of a medium-length jacket and pants that fell just below the knees. They assumed the material came from an animal that is no longer in existence, despite the texture resembling gray-dyed sheepskin. Hieroglyphics were etched on meticulously polished granite, and the chamber also had a variety of items with American Indian and Egyptian-inspired patterns. The explorers thought they had located the hierarchy of the tribe's burial site, They discovered what they called a ritual hall of these ancient individuals by going via another tunnel. They discovered markings, artifacts, and the extraordinarily well-preserved bones of numerous creatures, including tigers, elephants, and dinosaurs. Number 5. Serpent Mount Skeleton. A 4-year excavation that unearthed innumerable buried items led to some of the most exciting finds, albeit the Great Serpent Mound itself has been designated a Natural Historic Landmark. An extraordinarily huge skeleton measuring 7 feet in length was found beneath a mound that was 5 by 15 feet in size. Perhaps, though this measurement is spectacular in and of itself, the skeleton is lacking its feet and shin bones. Thus, the entire set of bones may have measured 8 feet or even longer. Before diving into number 6, subscribe to our channel if you love videos about archaeological and historical findings. Number 6. The Giants of Ecuador. After violent storms in Ecuador in 2013, a huge female skull was discovered in the province of Loja. The skull's age was estimated by scientists to be around 600 years. The rest of the skeleton's components were eventually located and put together after the skull was unearthed, which sparked a search for the remaining body parts. Given that women's typical height at the time was only 5 feet 8 inches, the skeleton's height of 7 feet 4 inches was impressive. 5 more enormous skeletons were found in the same location as a result of further investigation. The bones were all interred in deep, ornate graves and ranged in height from 7 to 8 feet. Scientists concluded that they were likely from 2 different tribes because they were discovered at 2 different locations. In 1964, the remains of a much larger monster was unearthed in Ecuador. Even though the bones were enormous, Vaca concluded they belonged to a human. The bones were delivered to Klaus Donner, an Austrian expert in artifact research, who permitted other specialists to examine the bones. They all reached the same conclusion. They were all the property of a person who was probably above 25 feet tall. They also concluded that the bones were older than 10,000 years. Number 7. Shandong Skeletons. When compared to the typical height of an adult in ancient China, these skeletons, which were buried about 5,000 years ago, would have been viewed as exceptionally huge. By today's standards, 6'3" is scarcely remarkable, but it's crucial to remember that the average human stature at this time was substantially lower. The fact that the largest bones were buried in the most elaborate tombs, suggesting that they were highly regarded, is a particularly intriguing detail. Number 8. Wisconsin Giants. A lost race of giants unearthed in some burial mounds near Lake Delavan in Wisconsin in May 1912 has scientists steadfastly mute. According to an article in the New York Times from May 4, 1912, the 18 skeletons unearthed by the Pearson brothers had some odd and bizarre characteristics. Their heads are far larger than those of any modern humans who live in America, and their heights varied from 7.6 to 10 feet. They appeared in several races, like humans, and tended to have a double row of fangs, long heads, 6 fingers, and 6 toes. This is only one of the numerous reports of enormous skeletons discovered in Wisconsin. Number 9. Lovelock Cave. Lovelock Cave in Nevada is said to have been inhabited by a race of red-haired, Hannibal giants from 2600 BC to the middle of the 1800s. Unlike other enormous races, this one's demise is known to us. They were cannibals, which made the nearby Paiute Indians, who didn't appreciate being on the giants' menu, quite unimpressed with them. The giants and Paiute engaged in a protracted struggle during which the giants were often forced to flee until the cave became their only refuge. However, they continued to hunt and consume Paiute even from the cave, up until the Paiute started a massive fire at the cave's entrance, which eventually killed all the giants within. In the late 1800s, the first signs of these humanoids were found. The cave was explored between 1912 and 1924, and 40 storage bunkers containing tens of thousands of lightwood duck decoys, fishing equipment, enormous moccasins, 15-inch long bark sandals, shell beads, and even a wooden grasshopper were discovered. 20,000 objects in total were found. The body of a man 6 feet 6 inches tall was discovered after they had only ventured a few feet inside the cave. His hair was red and his corpse had been mummified. While they found many more mummies of average size, some of them were 8 to 10 feet tall. The cave walls also bore numerous imprints of enormous hands. Number 10. The San Diego Giant. 1895. After being widely perceived in 1895 as a 9-foot-tall Native American mummy discovered in San Diego, California, further investigation revealed the bones to be more accurately 8 foot 4 inches (2.5 meters) tall. A second team of scientists looked at the mummified giant again around 13 years later while it was on display, and they discovered it had an exceptionally high gelatin content. This suggested to them that the remains were a fabrication. Strangely, the identical mummy was given the seal of authenticity by anthropologists employed by the same institution as the skeptics. Who is correct, and why was it necessary to recheck it over a couple of years later? It's interesting to note that Ali Herdlicka, who joined the Smithsonian in 1903 following the initial study, was one of the inspectors. Herdlicka publicly declared his disbelief in giants and his intention to have their existence erased from anthropological history. However, the mummy was bought by the Smithsonian for $500, or $14,000 in today's dollars, and hidden away, never to be seen again. Number 11. Miamisburg, Montgomery County, Ohio. 8-foot, 1.5-inch skeleton. The Adena culture is thought to have constructed Miamisburg Mound sometime between 1000 and 200 BC. It was formerly nearly 70 feet tall, the height of a 7-story building, and 877 feet in circumference, making it the biggest conical burial mound in Ohio. Hugh looked into this location in September 2012 and discovered there had been reports of other skeleton remains in the neighborhood after speaking with some historians at the local historical society. A large jawbone and bones of unusual size were among the many skeletal remains found in the mound, but it was the discovery half a mile away that caused a nationwide sensation and was mentioned in the Middletown Signal on January 17, 1899 under the headline, "Bones of Prehistoric Giant Found Near Miamisburg." Number 12. The Giants of Doddridge County, 1930. A newspaper article from the Clarksburg Daily Exponent dated June 15, 1930, reported on a remarkable discovery made in Doddridge County, West Virginia. Professor Ernest Sutton of Salem University discovered 2 ancient Native American burial mounds. He discovered a sizable underground chamber that had been painstakingly packed with clay and formed from big, flat rocks. A nearly 9-foot-tall sitting skeleton was there in the room, 2.74 meters. He discovered 3 burials in an adjacent, even larger mound that was roughly 10 feet high and 60 feet in diameter, 3 meters high and 18 meters in diameter. One of the burials was an extremely large man who was 7 feet 6 inches tall, 2.3 meters tall. The unearthing of the skeleton was described as being well preserved in another report from the Charleston Gazette. According to reports, the Smithsonian Institution received all the items, including the skeletons, and their official records confirm this. The investigation, however, showed that only a few tools and pottery shards were left after the corpses were long since taken from the archives. Number 13. Pharaoh Sanakhan's skeleton. The exact circumstances of Pharaoh Sanakha's reign and succession during the 3rd dynasty of the Old Kingdom are unclear and difficult to confirm, but his skeleton likely contains proof of the earliest incidents of gigantism ever discovered on Earth. Except for the head, the skeleton shows signs of accelerated growth, suggesting that Pharaoh Sanakha had the ailment and most likely passed away at a young age. Number 14. The STEELVILLE Ledger. On June 11, 1933, the STEELVILLE Ledger claimed that a small kid searching for arrowheads discovered a giant's 8-foot-tall bones, 2.4 meters. The skeletons were delivered to a nearby doctor, R.C. Parker, who laid them out on the floor of the hallway leading to his office. While some spectators from the general public came to see the amazing discovery, the skeleton remained there for a while. Les Eaton, a local who stands over 6 feet, 1.8 meters tall, is shown lying close to the skeleton in an old photograph that was discovered on microfilm at the STEELVILLE Library to serve as a comparison. The skeleton was expertly packaged and transported to the Smithsonian Institute for Research, where it was never seen again. Why do these skeletons always vanish after they reach Washington, D.C.? Were the individuals at the Institute attempting to downplay the potential significance of these enormous discoveries for the anthropological record? Number 15. West Hickory, Pennsylvania, 1870, 18-foot skeleton. The Cardiff Giant Outdone, alleged discovery of a giant in the oil regions, was the title of this article. This report from the Oil City Times in 1870 reveals some stunning physical anomalies and a skeleton that towered over the body, which was the tallest specimen they had found. A large helmet of iron which had been corroded with rust and a 9-foot-long sword were discovered after further digging. They had found the intact skeleton of a colossal giant. The bones were extraordinarily white, and all of its enormously large teeth were present and in their proper positions. And there you have it. Which one of these have you heard of before today? What do you think about our pick? Let us know in the comments section. Don't forget to hit the notification bell to be reminded of new and exciting videos. Bye!